All right, well, welcome back. Last module. Congratulations to those of you who've been with us all day or all night or whatever it is. You're just about there. Down the stretch we come with mobile web application development. I'm very fortunate to be joined today by Jeremy Foster. I am Christopher Harrison, and I want to actually start. This is Jeremy's module, but I'm going to inject just for a couple seconds here, only because there's two last little things that I want to close off from the last module. The first is, and a lot of people caught this in the chat window, I had a little typo there. Yeah, app cache, app C-H-A-C-E. I always like to joke that I'm a developer, which means I don't have to spell correctly. I just have to spell consistently. And so you'll actually notice if I go into the cache file that I had that right there. So, you know, again, kind of the consistent. There actually is not an agreed upon extension for those cache manifests.
I thought you were going to say there wasn't an agreed upon way for how to spell cache.
Well, there is an agreed upon way to spell cache. The last one that I want to highlight is, and this is one of those things, you know, sometimes you're just moving too fast. We're really cooking on this show. I wanted to go back and clean up my code. Once my IntelliSense stopped working, I knew there was something slightly off, but what I needed was the navigator object, which will give me that the browser, and then I could grab geolocation, and then I can say get current location, and now I can figure out what the latitude and longitude are.
So whereas you said never doubt yourself, what you should have said was never doubt IntelliSense.
There we go. Yes, never doubt IntelliSense. Never doubt the computer, or maybe not. Yeah. Anyway, all right. What do you say we close the entire day off by seeing how we could take everything that we've built and publish this out to Azure?
I say yes.
All right.
I say let's
perfect.
do it.
All right. Good. Because if you said no, I really didn't know where to go from there.
And we'd be in trouble.
Yeah. I'm glad you said yes.
All right. So we're going to look at publishing Azure, but as I mentioned, we're going to sneak another topic into here for you. We've got publishing Azure, but I also want to talk to you about multi-device hybrid apps tooling because it's really important and it didn't necessarily fit anywhere. But it's a little bit of a lateral shift in topic because we've been talking about how to write web pages that show up really well, at least in a mobile environment, probably across all of the screens, mobile and the larger screens. With the mobile device, did I say something wrong there? No? With the mobile device hybrid apps tooling, which is a bit of a mouthful, I agree. There's a shorter handle for it we'll talk about in just a second. With this toolkit, you basically are out of the realm of creating websites that you're going to browse to from the client, and you're more into the realm of creating apps on the client that just happen to be written in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay? I'll fully qualify that here in upcoming slides. So as I said, this is the name for it, the multi-device hybrid apps tooling, and like many large Microsoft names, they're very descriptive and very accurate, but very difficult to remember. Apps dominate the mobile web. Now, I apologize because here we are training you how to do the mobile web, and then we go and show you this discouraging slide about the trend in people using mobile websites declining over the years, and it's in fact the case. But remember the slide that I showed you where we were breaking the code, that we're breaking the cloud, splitting the cloud into two, an API and a website, and that was because we also need to support mobile apps. It's really not a bad story. If you do that bifurcation correctly, then you get both worlds, apps and websites that work on all your browsers.
Right. And it's also still worth highlighting, especially when we were talking about things like touch, that that's still applicable to the desktop as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yep. Same concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really what this slide is saying is over the last couple of years, there is a large majority and increasing number of times when a person goes to access some information on their mobile device, they choose to open the app as opposed to opening the website on their browser. And you guys know why. You've got smartphones in your pockets. It's
Mine's over here.
Icon. There you go. It's an icon or a tile tap away to get right into that information, and the app tends to be better at bringing it right to your attention, if not delivering it right to your tile on your start screen.
Yep.
Whereas the website, you're going to have it pinned, or you're going to have a favorite, or you're going to have to open the browser and type in a URL. Oh, hopefully you don't have to type in a URL. So those little difficulties are gigantic hurdles in the world of mobile, and so that's one of the reasons why people tend to do that. So the hybrid apps are a really good story in the middle. When you make a web app, it's a relatively low developer investment. The reason why, people already have the web assets, they might already have their styling done in CSS, they may already have their logic done in JavaScript, they're very familiar with web development techniques, and they may have a large team of people that's ready to do that. Native apps, on the other hand, are going to take more effort. They just are. They're going to take proprietary effort. And one of the reasons why there's a gigantic increase in the native app effort is because every time you implement a native client, it only works on that one device. So a given company develops their web app one time, and then they develop native apps for any major platforms that they want to target. So hybrid apps are only a slight increase in effort over web apps, because really you're just taking a web app and moving it into a wrapper, which is what we're going to talk about next. So it is a good in-the-middle technology. There are certain things that should not be used for, and I'll enumerate. What is Apache Cordova? Cordova is by far the primary technology that this multi-device hybrid app toolkit is based on. Okay, basically this tooling is a wrapper around this library, Cordova. Now, Cordova is open source. It was purchased by Adobe in 2011, not it, but PhoneGap, which is a licensed implementation of Cordova, but the Cordova open source project continues as is. What it does is it wraps a web view in a native wrapper. So on all of the major platforms, there's a way to kind of embed a browser into the app, so that when that browser goes to a page, it takes up the full screen and it just feels like that's what the app looks like. That's what you're doing there. So you have a single shared code base across all the devices, because you're just writing HTML and JavaScript and you're letting the browser do all the work of rendering.
Okay.
Right? Now here's where the magic comes in. This browser, this web app, this web view needs to have certain native functionality. Otherwise, it's just a web browser. It doesn't have any access to the device. It can't tell what the light sensor reading is. It can't tell anything about the accelerometer. It can't access the user's music library. It doesn't have any device access. And so you use these plugins for the various platforms that allow you to do JavaScript calls in your JavaScript, in your project, that actually go through the plugin and talk to the native device.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very nice. About 6% of the apps in the store are currently using Cordova.
Huh.
So excellent. This is by no means a vast minority if you consider all the options. It's pretty strong. Why do people use Cordova? Why, for the people that are using it, why did they choose it? First of all, familiarity of the languages.
Yeah,
it's a gigantic. Yeah.
Yeah, the number of HTML, JavaScript, CSS developers out there is innumerable. It's fantastic. Yeah, take advantage of those skills.
Exactly. And then second, and not too far behind, is the cross-platform support. They go, hey, this is great. Not only do we know how to do it, but if we do it this way, we're going to land on multiple platforms at once.
Yep.
Some chose it for performance, which I think is interesting. And now there's a strong perception that native apps are highly performant and JavaScripts are not. But anybody who knows their stuff knows that there are certain situations where JavaScript apps are more performant. It just really depends on what you're doing. And you can look at the rest of those. I won't take you through all of them. Now let's look at some code. And actually, I'm not going to look at much code with you, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because I have Visual Studio 2013, which is great.
Yep.
But I am using the Update 4 CTP.
Okay.
Which means that I cannot currently install Cordova on this machine. I cannot currently install the multi-device hybrid apps toolkit on this machine.
Okay.
So, and in the interest of time, I decided not to take you through it anyway, but I did want to take you to the URL. You'll go to aka.ms/Cordova, and even though Cordova is the generic technology, it's going to take you to our multi-device hybrid apps landing page. You can see that this is in fact in preview. And you can download the extension right here. It's very easy. It's very easy to download it. Now, when you install it, you may be surprised, as I was a long time ago when I installed it for the first time, before I had Update 4 CTP, that it is a really heavy install because it's having to install a number of dependencies. It's having to install iTunes and the Android SDK. It's having to install a bunch of dependencies like that. It has to make sure that you have Node on your machine, because whenever you're done with this, you have a very powerful tool in Visual Studio. You're able to say, File, New Project, create me a Cordova app, switch to Android, go. And it will run it. It'll launch the Android emulator and open it in Android. Pretty impressive. Now, obviously for Mac, you're not going to be able to build without a Mac build server, so it's going to install the Bonjour, and so you're going to discover your Mac build server, use that, that's going to build it, and then you'll be able to run it.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. And by the way, it's worth highlighting real quick that there is an MVA that's coming up on the 28th. There you go. That will actually walk you through all of that, so you can go ahead and check that out.
Great. Do you know off the top of your head who the presenters are? There we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Fantastic.
That's going to be excellent. I'm going to be in attendance to that MBA. Because those guys are real bright on the subject, and they're gonna be really helpful.
Yep.
Okay, so when do you use Cordova? Use it when an idea makes sense as a web app, but you really need good, solid offline support. Now, I know that Christopher just showed you offline support, but we're talking like native access to the user's music library, photo library. I mean, all of the users, not only their offline storage, but their isolated storage.
Right.
All the app space that's dedicated to that. There are limits to the offline storage in the browser, and they're different for every browser. But but the isolated storage that the device is giving you, you can have all you want. It's your device. It's your hard drive, right?
Right. Yep.
If you need access to native device capabilities, if you need to know the light level, the accelerometer reading, the geolocation, and I know that in the browser you can get geolocation with browser technologies alone now, but there's a geolocation technology that's built into the device, and it's going to differ somewhat from the one in the HTML5 standard.
Yep.
And also when you want better reach and discoverability. So if you want to be able to get your app really broad, and if you want to be able to share your actual language code, your actual code with perhaps your website presence, then you could choose to do this, because you're speaking the same language in your app as you are in your browser.
Absolutely, and you're creating store apps here. Now, one of the things about creating a mobile web app is somebody sort of needs to know already that you're there and have navigated to your site, which a lot of times is perfect, and that's great for existing customers or customers that maybe you're picking up through Bing or through another search engine. But if somebody's looking for an app and something that's going to work well inside of an app, where are they going to go? Well, they're going to go to their app store and go looking inside of there. So this gives you yet another way that you can surface your site and make it easy for people to find it.
Thank you so much for adding that. I was reaching for that. That's very helpful. Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Yeah, having a curated list of apps, which is what the store is tremendously helpful to you when you're trying to sell and you can monetize it.
Yeah.
You can't really monetize a website very easily, right? You're gonna have to hook into some monetization APIs and stuff.
Yep.
Don't use it if you're making a first-person shooter. It just does not make any sense at all.
Yep.
It's not what it's made for, okay? Cordova does depend on the platform build system. So when you're developing a Cordova app for iOS, you're going to need a Mac in order to do that build. When you're building for Windows 8 or later iterations of Windows, you're going to need a version of that operating system in order to do the build. Okay, it needs that platform. And if you're doing Android, you're going to need the Android SDK in order to do that build. So there are a few plugins, there are many plugins that are built right into Cordova, like my diagram showed, so that when you need to get, I call it through the firewall, when you need to break outside of your web browser experience and into the native device capabilities to, for instance, capture some sensor data, there's a plugin for that already. But you can write custom plugins, or other people can write custom plugins, and you can acquire them. Now, custom plugins are really good, but do check the support matrix and make sure that it's going to work across all of the platforms so that it's going to be a full experience and span all the devices that you're targeting.
Yep. By the way, somebody asked in the Q&A, and I wanted to answer this, about Cordova, if it was a Microsoft project or an Apache project, and it's an Apache project.
Yeah.
And one very interesting thing is one of the members of the board of directors for the Apache organization, a gentleman by the name of Ross Gardler, is actually a Microsoft employee. And if you're curious a bit more about Apache, again, he came in and did an interview on MVA about Apache, but it is an Apache project. We've just gone in and created the plugins for Visual Studio to make it that much easier to create.
What's the title of that MVA?
Open Source Questions Answered.
All right.
Yes.
I saw part of that one. I need to watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
Really valuable information in that one.
Absolutely.
And
Cool.
it wasn't at a panel, a number of different
a number of different
guests
people
that came
through.
in.
Yeah, Cliff Allen and Cliff Allen was fantastic. Scott Hunter was fantastic. I mean, the entire thing was great, but those are really the two standout interviews. So if you are curious about Microsoft and open source and the fact that, yes, we do embrace open source, and of course, you probably saw the slide from the other day with Scott Gu and the slide in the background saying Microsoft hearts Linux, that obviously it's a very different world. Check out the interviews with Cliff Lee and Scott Hunter that really kind of walk you through everything with Microsoft and open source. So yeah, available on MVA.
Okay, check this out.
Yes.
Download the extension at the address I showed you. Engage on Stack Overflow if you'd like with this address. And there's going to be a Cordova tag on Stack Overflow as well, but this is specifically for this tooling. Mm-hmm. And if you've got questions about this tooling, look at that. There's an email address to the Cordova tools team. That'll work. Let's talk about deployment.
Yes.
So we've got ourselves an app. As a matter of fact, I'm going to jump back over here to Visual Studio. I do have to apologize. I checked in some code, and I don't know what happened to it. It must be in the ether right now, trying to find its home, because I think that my Hammer implementation is still not working, although last night I saw it with my very own eyeballs, and I know I hit push. But anyway, regardless, the Git troubles. So I'm going to try to get that pushed for you just as soon as I can. But I do have a project here that's working, even if the Hammer gestures still aren't working. But this is my project, and I'm done with it. Let's pretend I'm done with it.
Okay.
I'm done with it.
Poof, you're done.
Well tested, and I'm ready to go.
Yep.
I want to get this sucker deployed to Azure. Actually, maybe even before I'm done with it, I want to get it deployed to Azure. I'm not going to take you through this whole process, but you can deploy to Azure to the staging environment. And then you can use that just to test it on Azure and see how your CDN works and your the latency is and all of that. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 different ways to deploy this to Azure.
3 ways.
And Azure is really just one hosting environment. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer given, but it's just one hosting environment. There's a lot of ways to push to it. Now, one way that you could push to it is by way of FTP. Now, I don't know what you think about that, Christopher.
FTP.
Yeah, should we use FTP and Xcopy it over there?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's go old school. I mean, as long as we're going to be, embracing Commodore 64, we may as well.
Bring back Telnet.
Not sure why that didn't work, but we should be there soon. Must have misspelled it, because here it comes. Okay, I'm getting into my Azure Portal. I'm going to take you to the website that I created for this project. And I do have to tell you that there's even multiple ways to hook up Visual Studio to your web project. So while that's getting ready over there, I'm going to actually create a new project here in the solution by right-clicking and saying Add a new. Actually, I could do either a new project or a new website, either one. Let's go ahead and do a new website because we've already created projects. So I'm going to create a new website in the same solution. This is going to be an ASP.NET website. It's in the file system. Let's put it in my junk folder. Just call it junk. All right, there it is. Now, that did not do what I was expecting. I guess, that's right. I do have to have a web project in order to do this tie-up. Let's try this again. New project. The same thing, web, ASP.NET. It's going to be inside my frayed knot. Actually, let's put this inside junk, and we should call this one junk 2, if I can type. And now I could add application insights. That's a whole nother topic. Super cool, but a whole nother topic. And then I can hit OK. And on this next screen, I get an opportunity to tie this up with an Azure website. and actually either an Azure website or a virtual machine. So I could run this on a virtual machine. Now I have an IaaS solution, and I have lots of power and control if I need
fantastic. Yeah.
I usually don't need it, and usually a website's completely fine. Let's go ahead and create a website that actually consists of some data so that we can have something to show. So I'll create the MVC. That one gives me a nice web page to land on. It's going to be hosted in the cloud, and you can see that it already recognizes that I'm signed in with my Microsoft account. So I'll hit OK. There it is. It wants to confirm. You know what's going to happen here, don't you? Well, besides the fact that I'm going to type my password wrong because I'm nervous. You guys are making me nervous.
Two-factor authentication, which, by the way, this is a great time to mention the fact that your Microsoft accounts do support two-factor authentication, and I'm just sort of distracting while Jeremy does his thing over here. Keep doing your thing.
I'm done.
Oh, wow. All right. But in any event, do turn this on because this is just going to give you that much more protection around your account. So two-factor authentication, Microsoft account, just fire up Bing. There's a billion different articles that will walk you through how to do that. Everybody should do this.
And you know, when your Microsoft account was really just your authorization to your email, it's one thing. But now, if you're taking advantage of the vast amounts of storage that Microsoft, I've got 1.2 terabytes of storage in OneDrive.
On OneDrive? Wow.
Yeah. And I don't want to get hacked.
No.
No, thank you.
No.
Don't want to get hacked. So I'm going to go ahead and show everybody my secret number here because it expires in about 10 seconds.
That actually would have been fine, but yeah. Yep.
Okay, and this I'm generating this, by the way. I'll show you this here. On my phone, I'm generating this with an app on my phone. It's called the Microsoft Authenticator. And this app is really convenient because it means that if I'm sitting on an airplane, I can still generate a code.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or in a submarine.
Yep.
No Wi-Fi on submarines, right? I can still generate a code. Yeah, generally speaking, no.
We'll have to ask John Galloway about that.
Has he been on a submarine?
He was actually a submariner.
Oh, did he have Wi-Fi?
I don't believe so.
All right.
Yeah, see?
Okay, so now this project is saying, okay, I know who you are. I know what your Azure subscription is. This is my Azure subscription here. Matter of fact, I want to choose a different Azure. I have 2 Azure subscriptions. And then I have an opportunity to choose my region.
Yep.
And if I want a database for this, I don't need one, but if I want a database for this, there it is, and I hit OK. And now this did not actually publish anything, it just tied it up.
Okay.
It tied it up. It put some information in this project such that when I create this kind of junk project, and it's going to flesh out an MVC, and it's going to say, hey, congratulations, you created a project without doing any work.
Woo-hoo.
That's fun for us. Now, this project now allows me to right-click on it and publish. And it says, I know exactly what to do here. I'm going to publish it to Azure websites. It's all signed up, existing websites, and junk 2. I say OK. It's going out to junk 2. This is going to be the address for it. Publish. And as the French say, voila. We've got a site. Actually, this is not the MVC site, so it's not there yet.
Yeah, it's doing its thing.
Publish started.
Publish.
I was ahead.
There we go.
There's junk2.azurewebsites.net. That's in Chrome. Let's see if it's also working over here.
It's just taking its own sweet time here. There we go.
Control F5.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right.
It is a cross-platform website.
Awesome.
Cross-browser website. Beautiful. Okay, so that's one way to do it. I can to tie that publish up. And actually, I guess I just kind of skipped ahead of myself and showed you how to do the second method. But I was bringing you into the Azure portal so that I could show you that if I go look at one of my websites, and I'll take you to that junk website I just created. If I go to the dashboard, I get my FTP statistics here. Here's my FTP hostname, and here's the secure version. Now I can take this, and if I just click on that, it's going to open it in Internet Explorer, and it's going to allow me to put my credentials in here. I won't put my whole credentials in here because I'm not exactly sure I remember it. And then actually, I don't know if you know this, but there is in the browser, when you're looking at an FTP site in the browser, there is an opportunity to open this in Windows Explorer, which is super handy. And I don't know if it shows it to you if you haven't authenticated. open, there it is, open FTP site in File Explorer. And so then that would take you over to File Explorer. Of course, I didn't authenticate, so it's going to try again. This way, I have direct FTP access. One of the things I like to do is use my favorite file compare utility, connect to this FTP, and then I have a really nice ability to mirror, sync left, sync right, look at the differences, really good control over the differences between what I have locally and what it has up there. Okay, let's go back to the slides and look at the second method that I already showed you because I jumped ahead. Visual Studio Publish.
Okay.
Now, what I showed you is the ability to create a project and in the process of creating it, tie it up to a website.
Right.
Now, what about my, my Junk 1 website? It's not tied up to one.
Right.
So I can right-click on that. I can still say that I want to publish this website, and I can still say that I want to publish it to an Azure website.
Nice.
And I can still choose, because I'm still signed in as me, which site I want to publish it to. It wouldn't make very much sense to override that one. So I want a new one. So I can, right here, I can add myself a new website called, I like to prefix things so that I know that I'm going to get it. So Junk 1, I want to take it to this subscription in this region. So now I am both creating and publishing to this website kind of all in one step. The really cool thing about this publish method for publishing your website is that it's very smart about how it does it. And you'll notice that the first time you publish, like you probably noticed it with the other one. This one's a very small website, so it may be much faster. But the very first time that you publish, it has to go through all of the files and upload them.
Right.
Every subsequent time, it's able to do intelligent diffs and only upload the websites that are intelligent. Now, this one I didn't start with a template, so this makes total sense.
Because there's nothing there.
There's nothing
really
there.
Upload anything.
It's empty. So Azure's at least giving me a friendly page and not a not a very cruel and unfriendly 404. So that's that. Now let's look at the well. There's kind of, I'm going to slide another one in here. I told you that you can use FTP, Visual Studio Publish, or you can publish from source control. There's kind of another way, and that is that you can rock your PowerShell console like I have, which means that I've got it all modded out with all these extensions. What I did was I installed the Azure PowerShell tools.
Okay.
Very easy to do. Just search it. Azure PowerShell tools. And then I went into the shortcut on my machine and said, let's see, Azure PowerShell, there it is. And I right-clicked on it. And I said, I want to open this file location, and there's the shortcut. And I went to the properties, and I looked at what it was actually running.
Okay.
And I went in there, and I grabbed the script that it was actually running. And I took it, and I added it to my, this dollar profile, cache profile is my PowerShell profile. I added it to that profile so that now, down here, I'm adding all of the Azure functionality by simply calling that same PS1.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you just import that right in.
Yep.
Nice.
And so now, whenever I just hit Win3, because as you probably know, if I minimize everything here, this is the third, despite the fact that it looks like the fifth icon in Windows 10, this is the third of my shortcuts that have been pinned to my taskbar. And so Win3 opens PowerShell for me.
Ah.
That's pretty sweet. I can just open it any time. It's slightly transparent, which just makes me feel like I'm living in the 21st century. And I have I have Azure, so I can get all my Azure help, look at all my Azure commands, and Christopher, would you look at how many Azure commands there are?
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's a lot. Basically, it looks like if you want to do something inside of Azure, you can do it inside of Azure.
Yeah. In fact, all this rich tooling in Visual Studio, when you hit the buttons, guess what it's doing?
It's doing those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm just hitting spaces.
I wasn't going to say anything.
You weren't going to say anything?
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at some of these. I do just absolutely love that I've got tab to complete in PowerShell. New Azure website.
Yep.
Let's see, let's create a new website. What were those attributes?
Well, there was something about a name.
Oh,
location.
Location, that'll work. Great. Oh, you were right. Name. Yep. What do I want to call this? How about Junk 3?
Okay.
You were going to say something different.
No, Junk 3 works. Lobster.
In where were you?
Tempe.
Yeah. There's the name of our...
Yep.
And what other attributes might we... Do we need to say the host name?
The host name.
No. Ooh.
Get.
Git. Do you know what this means?
No, but you're about to tell me.
I'm about to tell you. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit Shift Home and Control C. You know what that did in PowerShell before Windows 10? Absolutely nothing. You know what it does now? I'm about to
select
tell
all
you.
and copy.
It copies it. Okay, so the reason why I copied that and canceled was because I want to go ahead and create change and make directory to lobsters in space. Oh, why space? What happened there? That was weird. My mind just went to lobsters in space. Lobsters in Tempe. Space. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Tempe because I don't have high aspirations as space. So now I'm going to paste. Beautiful. That just makes me want to sing. I mean, Control V, Control C in PowerShell. I don't sing much, but
I don't sing at all.
Yeah. So the Git attribute says, oh yeah, also make me a Git repository where I'm at right now, and set this new Azure website as a remote in that repository.
No kidding.
If that blows your mind, just wait, I'll make it clear. Okay, now, the reason why it says that is because my Azure credentials have not been set up, and I hope that I remember how to do that. I do get credential, and I sign in as me, and I do up, go. Oh, add, there we go. I forgot I had to add. You know what, I guess I need to do that. There we go.
Hope your phone is nearby.
In fact, it is.
867.
Don't remember that. Don't remember that. Don't remember that.
Okay.
It's 712-742932. Uh-oh. Oh, bummer. So what does this mean? Account 1, IDs don't match. Okay, so I've got something goobered here. It's not going to work to do the full demo, but suffice to say...
That's okay.
Yeah. Suffice to say, it would have been awesome.
It would have been awesome.
And by the way, I'll just mock this up as if it was going to work. I could also say, I want to tie this up to a GitHub account.
Oh, no kidding.
And here is the Git repository name. I thought it was Git repository name. Git hub repository is, so you know, this is under my GitHub account. And I want to call this Lobsters in Tempe. And my GitHub credentials are, and then I would do, this is where I do it, get credentials.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's that. So it's really fun doing things from the Azure prompt and just being like, oh, how about a new Azure website? How about I go ahead and push to that? It's super groovy.
Nice. Groovy.
Super groovy. Okay, so I told you that there's 3 ways. There's actually 4. Don't worry. Now I'm going to show you the 3rd/4th.
Okay.
All right.
Source
this one is publishing from source control. Now, assume that what I just did worked. And I have a local repository that's tied up to an Azure service. What that's going to look like if I have this working correctly, let me go ahead and look at my remotes. So my remotes in my, this is our Afraid Not project. The remote is currently the, just the origin. Okay, so this is what you get when you tie it up to a repository online, like GitHub or whatever. So you tied this up to GitHub, I cloned it, and so I got this remote called origin. That's just the default Git origin. Well, when you tie up your Azure to, when you tie up deployment for Azure, you get another remote called Azure. And one way to do this is to go back to your management panel and look at your websites, scroll up through the ever-growing list of to the websites. I have a website called Afraid Not, and I want to set up Git deployment, which I've already done, so what I'm actually going to do is create a new website for you. Sorry about that. I meant to delete that before our show today, but such is life. So let's create a new website called afraidnotdemo.com. that works because it's a different domain, Azure Websites. And this is, yep, this is what I want. West US shared. There we go. Create that for me. Now that's going to take just a little bit. Everything's so fast these days. Yeah, okay, it's working on it. Good.
Now it's done.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's done. We have a website. Now here's the way to go tell Azure, I want to deploy to this using Git. And this is a fun, modern, real geeky, hacky way of deploying. It's pretty cool. I go into here and I say, I want to set up deployment from source control to this Azure website.
Okay.
When I click there, I get this, and it says, where is it going to be?
Oh, so you could actually pull from even like Dropbox.
All over the place.
That's cool. Okay.
An external repository, Codeplex, Dropbox, GitHub, a local Git repository. This is what it uses if you use that -git. This is what it uses if you use GitHub. And there's lots of them. Let's use a local Git repository. I've already got it set up.
Okay.
Now you actually have it on GitHub.
I do have it on GitHub.
And so we could do it from there, but I want to, this is kind of something that I'm doing for me. Like, I don't know how you want to deploy it. This is something I want to do.
Go for it.
So I'm going to do it from a local Git repository.
Don't let me get in your way.
Don't get in my way. I'm going too fast. So I did see a comment in the thread that said, hey, that was kind of fast. Go back and watch it when we've got it in post-record. Slow it down to 0.8. You'll be good to go. All right, now what happened here is it wired it up and it gave me this URL.
Okay.
This is a Git URL, and we're doing good on time. This is a Git URL, and now I can go back to my command prompt. And once again, when I look at my remotes, this one is not included, right?
Okay.
And it tells me this right here, so you don't have to remember it. Git remote add Azure, and then use that address, okay? So I can get, I'm looking for the remotes.
You also could have copied and pasted.
I sure could have.
Yeah.
Except I have the Git address. That would have included it. I wanted to show off here. I have this one memorized. Git remote add. Now this next term is Azure, but that's not a special word. That could be whatever. You can make that whatever.
Yep.
Azure, and then I'm going to paste that. So I'm adding a remote to Git. And the reason, by the way, that you see two different addresses for origin is that technically Git is capable of a different address for going up versus coming down.
Right.
But usually they're the same. So when I do this Git remote add, they're going to be the same. So go. It's done. So now I will hit up, go. And you can see that I not only have Origin now, I also have Azure, and it's pointing to this. And what that means is...
And so Azure was just what you called it, which kind of makes sense since you know you're going to be going up to Azure eventually, but it could have been called anything.
It could have been called anything. It's called Azure right here only because,
Yep.
And that's kind of the convention that's set up because that's the way it does it by default when you set one up.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, but you could call it anything. As a matter of fact, if you and I are collaborating on this project, and we happen to be collaborating over GitHub, but if we're collaborating via any other means, USB stick or whatever, I could set up other remotes, and then I could easily use those push and pull and whatever from those remotes using those keywords. Okay, so now Git push Azure.
So just like that, you're now going to upload this in Azure.
It is, and now it's going to probably complain because I have some changes. As you can see, my PoshGit is showing me that I have 2 additions to file system and 1 modification.
Okay.
And no deletions. And so that's, in a very friendly way, telling me that I've got some changes. I'm going to hit Get Stash, and that's going to stash those changes. Whoa. Head is now at, okay, and so now it's got 2 addition files. Those shouldn't get in the way, okay?
Okay.
Only the modifications were stashed. Okay, so now I should be able to say Git push Azure, go. Wow. All right, so with the first time that you push to it, it's not going to let you do that unless you do the upstream. And I thought it normally told you how to do the upstream. I don't have that one memorized. Is it set? Somebody in the...
Is it on the Azure window?
Maybe, but I'm going to try this. Darn. Oh, I bet that's right. I don't have to, if I do the setup stream, I have to tell it what branch I'm going to, and I just neglected to put the branch in here.
Okay.
So if I say get push Azure master, I don't even have to have an upstream.
All right.
It'll send my master to that.
So what you're saying is hey Git, I want you to push up to what we've called Azure, which is that Azure location, and I want you to push the master branch.
Yep.
And now it's prompting you for the password.
Yeah, and actually it's not saying I want you to push my master branch. It's saying I'm on my master branch. I'm wanting to push to your master branch.
Ah, okay, perfect.
Yeah, and there's an attribute that you could add to that such that in the future, all you have to say is get push.
Okay.
Okay, so now it's asking me for my credentials simply because, and just the password. That's helpful. This might take a couple of tries. We've all been through this though, so wonderful. So what it did now is, and by the way, that password is managed in here. Okay, so in your Frayed Not demo website, under Configure, or maybe under Dashboard. I think it's under Dashboard. Over here on the right, you have your deployment credentials.
Oh, okay.
You can reset those and set them to whatever you want. That's what it's using in here. So I just deployed to, this should work at fraydnotdemo.azurewebsites or styes.net.
Cool.
And it didn't quite work.
Well, it pushed up the entire thing. Yeah, so you would have to actually navigate into, I think it was like code and then app and then from there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so now the funny thing about this, I want you to notice this remote address. Notice that the remote contains this SCM in it. Mm-hmm. That's kind of interesting. So my address was fraydnotdemo.azurewebsites.net, and yet this is saying .scm.azurewebsites.net.
Yep.
Now if I just go to that, it's going to bring up a web experience for me. And look at the top. It says Kudu Services. Mm-hmm. What in the world? Kudu is an open source project that Microsoft created for doing just this, but they didn't just implement it here. They implemented it as an open source project. So you could go grab the source and use this yourself. And it's used for deploying websites to Azure.
Oh, fantastic.
I get a REST API if I want to interact with this programmatically, but I can also go into the environment and I can look at these things. So I can look at all my app settings.
So you could actually go in and create your own REST client for this and be able to make changes and push things up that way.
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic.
I can even go to the tools, watch this, and I can go to the, which one is it? Oh, I'm sorry, it's the debug console here. The debug console in either CMD or PowerShell, and watch this. It just runs it here inside the browser.
Nice. Okay.
So now I have local access to my Azure website in this command prompt.
Oh, that's cool.
Dir. And it'll take a second. CD, it's wanting to scroll on me. Site. CD site, there I am. Wow, that's a little bit annoying. CD, there's the www root. Whoops. And there's the file that got pushed.
Nice.
This is actually the hosting start.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But anyway, yeah.
Anyway, that's the concept. That's the general concept. So a few different ways to get this goodness that you're creating up to Azure, right?
Yeah. So what we saw there was a lot of different ways that we could go ahead and push up to Azure. So if you want to do everything from Visual Studio, you could do it that way. If you want to be able to deploy from, say, Visual Studio Online or from Git or GitHub, you can go in and do that. And you also talked at the beginning about how you could actually take that web app and essentially create a mobile app from that if you want to make sure that you provide kind of that full experience for the users.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, with that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping and kind of close up shop here. So first up, I want to bring up again our GitHub, which is at that location. You can access all of the source code, and you'll be able to push up the last little hammer things. That way they can go in and
just look at the commits and see what I'll make a note.
Exactly. For those of you that are not overly familiar with Git, I always like to highlight this down here at the very bottom. If you just want to go grab everything, download zip, make your life easy. You can go ahead and do that. The second big thing is I do want to highlight the fact that Jeremy's going to be back again next week with Rachel Appel doing Introduction to jQuery, and then about a month after that, on November 26th, he'll be back yet again. You can be, very tired of the studio after a little while. But Jeremy's going to be back yet again doing ASP.NET Identity with Adam Tuliper, one that I'm very excited about. There you go. And we've had a lot of demand, a lot of requests for more information on identity. So I'm super jazzed to see there's going to be
we have kind of a miniature identity crisis going on.
I see what you did there. Well played. All right. Last but certainly not least is you can find Code Foster. You can find Jeremy Foster at Code Foster on Twitter. You can find me at Geek Trainer. Do want to thank you guys an awful lot for watching, but we've got one last request before you take off. Down there at the very bottom will be somewhere right about there. There's a little poll. Just go ahead and fill that out. They do take all of that seriously.
Please,
Jeremy?
please.
Yes, please, please, please. Thank you again for coming out. Fantastic working with you again. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon.
Sure.
That Adam and Rachel won't have all the fun. So with that, thanks again, and good morning, good afternoon, good night. Cheers.
Thanks for watching. See ya.